thank you once again for inviting me, and thank you, Reverend Michael. I appreciate that. It's always a privilege. It's always an honor to be here to share some thoughts with you. And, one of the reasons I really like doing this is the same reason that I like teaching classes, is that it makes me sit back and reflect and say, okay, I got to do a little bit of research, and I get smarter in doing all of this. And a lot of principles, it just kind of firms them up for me and brings them back to light, these things that I forget on a day-to-day thing. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, by the way. And so the theme for the Center for the year is transformation. And the Lord knows we have been being transformed. Just look around this beautiful facility and you can see that. And for October in particular, the theme is Life Flourishes in Truth. So today, I'm going to share some things about truth, about the truth of a vibrant life with unbridled happiness. So the title of my talk today is You Bet Your Life. Just say it's in your word. Well, with a title like that, I just have to throw in a couple of broad remarks things in there. But he says about life that the secret to life is honesty and fair dealing. If you can fake that, you got it made. He also says, I intend to live forever, or die trying. And of course, one of my favorites is, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? So, I can spend all morning just going through a whole bunch of Roger Marx one-liners, but I came across something else which pretty much goes into what our talk is about today. So there's this little story about a very well-known philosopher, who's well-known. And this is a story about him and his driver. And his driver has been with him for years. And he listened to everything that this philosopher had to say, and always lived with all of his lectures, and he really likes his boss. And so, he's always amazed at how his boss answers these difficult questions of life and the meaning of life and all that. So one day the driver approaches his boss and he says, you know, he asked him if he would be willing to swap places for one evening. And the philosopher thought about it and he agreed. And he said, well, sure. So the driver got, so this particular evening, the driver got up there and he's really handling himself pretty well, talking these philosophical things. However, when it came time for questions and answers, someone in the back of the room asked him, I got to read this, is the epistemological meta-narrative that you seem to espouse compatible with the theological account of the universe? So the driver sits back and he says, you know, that's an extremely simple question. It is so simple that my driver can answer it. Yeah. So it's kind of funny. Whenever I'm asked to speak, usually it'll be Reverend Michael or somebody will ask me to speak if they're here some other place. And generally, I'll get the theme, but I have no clue what I'm going to talk about. Absolutely none. However, as most speakers in here, as mine will probably tell you, they do the same thing, is that they kind of put it in the back of their mind, take that idea or that theme and just kind of plant it in the subconscious and plant the seed, and miraculously something just comes about. You just kind of go and it's the same for me. I mean, you know, one day I'll just be sitting there and I'm reading something and I'll say, oh, that's what I'm talking about. So the universe has a very wonderful way of doing these things. So what we're going to be talking about today is truth and life. And let's start off by looking at a couple of definitions. Now, life is defined as a characteristic distinguishing physical entities having biological processes, such as signaling and the self-sustaining process, and it's from those that do not, either because they don't have those functions or those functions have ceased. They're classified as inanimate, right? Now, I kind of question that because I question the latter part of that definition because I think that over the years, physicists have kind of proven, at least to me, that the latter part of that definition is a little bit inaccurate because we know that even solid objects, minerals, stone, wood, whatever it is, made up of, of atomic particles and subatomic particles, and they're in constant motion, and they're evolving and moving, and they are a part of life. They're part of that divine oneness of all creation. So let's look at truth for a minute. Now, truth is defined as being in accord with fact or reality, or fidelity to an original standard. Truth may often be used in a modern context as the idea of the truth of the self or authenticity. So with those definitions, let's go back and talk about life a little bit. After all, it's something that we all have in common. Now we can talk about the biological processes and how it sustains itself and does all of these things, but I want to talk about it from kind of a deeper level, a different level. It's an astrophysical, spiritual, metaphysical context. Astrophysicists will tell us that life, the universe, came into existence sometime about 13.8 billion years ago. At this time, all matter was kind of compacted into, they kind of describe it as a small ball of infinite density. And this intense heat, it was just called a singularity. And suddenly, the singularity starts evolving and it starts expanding and it explodes into this giant explosion. And it evolved into what we are today. I mean, in a nutshell, that's the Big Bang Theory. This origin of life as we know it from the scientific perspective. But the universe, us, we continue to expand, we continue to evolve physically, spiritually, mentally. We are evolved from that one life, from that singularity. Now Neil deGrasse Tyson, you all know from Cosmos fame, he says that the atoms of our bodies are traceable to the stars that manufactured them in their cores and exploded these enriched ingredients across the galaxy billions of years ago. For this reason, we are biologically connected to every other living thing in the world. We are chemically connected to all molecules on the earth. And we are atomically and connected to all atoms in the universe. We're not just figuratively, but literally, we are stardust. And he goes on to say, this is part of that, not only are we in the universe, but the universe is in us. And he says, I don't know any deeper spiritual feeling than what that brings upon me. Now, by the same token, Ernest Holmes says, the life which we live is a universal life expressing through us. How else can we live? He goes on to explain that this universal life is the first cause of the infinite spirit, God, life itself. Then he says, there is spirit, or the invisible cause, and nothing, out of which all things are made. Now, spirit plus nothing leaves spirit. So that's who we are. Hence, there is one original cause and nothing, out of which we are made. In other words, we are made of this thing. That is why we are called sons of God, as our song says. So we are made out of star stuff. This thing called life, physically, spiritually, metaphysically. We are one with the creation, one with the Creator God. Whatever is true of God is true of our life, since our life and the life of God are not two but one, as Psalm says. This life, your life, my life. I mean, how spectacular is that? But then we step into the traffic. We step into the mundane, day-to-day life, the stuff of every day. We get focused on the truth, the appearances around us, and we forget who we are. But fear not, there's hope, because there is the truth. This is the truth. So we're going to talk about the truth. And by the way, that's the secret word. Somewhere, was it $200? And happen. So here is a good example of truth. So following a great sermon on lifestyle evangelism, one family thought that they had better do something to witness to Jesus. So they invited their neighbors to dinner the following Friday night. When it came to the meal, the hostess was keen to show their neighbors that they upheld Christian standards in their home. So she asked her little 5-year-old Johnny to say grace. The little Johnny, he was a bit shy, so he says, I don't know what to say. There was an awkward pause, and then followed by a reassuring smile from the mother, and she says, oh, darling, just say what your daddy said at breakfast this morning. Obediently, the boy repeated, oh, God, we've got those awful people coming to dinner. So yeah, from the mouth of babes, right? A few more quotes for you. Rumi says, truth was a mirror in the hands of God. It fell and it broke into pieces. Everybody took a piece of it and they looked at it and thought they had found the truth. And then philosopher Marcus Aurelius says, everything we hear is an opinion, not fact. Everything we see is a perspective and not the truth. And Emerson says the truth and goodness and beauty are all different faces of the same thing, if you will. True thought deals directly with first cause. That comes from Ernst Holmes. And this science of mind, is the study of this first cause. It's the study of the truth itself. This invisible essence, this is the ultimate stuff. The intelligence from which everything comes. It's the power back of all creation. It's the thing itself. You know, one of our guiding principles for all of the centers coming from R.Sc.P is the principles of what we believe. And this is one of them I want to read to you. And it says, we believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of the truth who lives in close contact with their indwelling God, Spirit. So what is this revelation of truth? That revelation is that God is all there is. It's life itself. And if that's so, then I'm life evolving, I'm life growing. I am the beauty, the perfection, and the love of God manifesting right now. And so are each one of you. Now here's a big shameless plug for my metaphysical Bible class. And I'll be teaching that starting on October 31st. Mm-hmm. So in Genesis, the Big Bang Theory, the creation as described in Science of Mind by Dr. Holmes, they're all the same story. They're your story, they're my story. And it goes like this. Now think about it. These things that I'm saying, because they're all exactly the same. There's a creative intelligence, a divine source, energy, God, whatever you want to call it. There is all of this and nothing. Out of this nothingness, is this giant explosion of light. And boom, the Big Bang happens. The firmament, the stars, the planets, the earth, plants, animals, you and me, etc., etc. We're all created over a period of time. The scientists say that this was about 14 billion years it took to get here. The Bible says it took 6 days. But 6 days, like most of the things that are in the Bible, are allegorical. There's stages of evolution of mankind. In fact, 6 in metaphysical, spiritual realm means it's the earthly realm, the material realm. And of course, we're all taught that it was all done in 7 days. On the 7th day, he rested. Well, 7 days equates to completeness, fullness. So these are the stages of evolution. The point here is that there is only one truth. There is God and nothing. Nothing plus God equals God. So God is all there is. This is your truth. This is my truth. Now, Ernest Holmes, in several places in Science of Mind, he talks about how the truth will set you free. He equates truth to freedom. Freedom is your truth. Bondage is your false belief. He says that the divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. You see, bondage is what we create in our lives. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. The truth points to freedom under the law. Thus, the inherent nature of man and women is forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom. Life, truth, freedom, bondage. You put it all together, what does this all mean in terms of achieving a flourishing, happy, carefree, meaningful life? In a book, there's a book called The Journey to the Heart of God. The author, Almeen, says, the cosmos functions according to the principles based on absolute truth. Every step of the way, the grand design has as its purpose the turning of illusion into truth. When we, in any way, get out of synchronicity with this purpose, life diminishes. And conversely, when every action and word is based on truth, life flourishes. In simple terms, Ernest Holmes says, life is a mirror that reflects back to us, to the thinker we're thinking into it. So when we're looking at the world, too often we're seeing it through a glass darkly. We forget the truth of who and what we are. We're out of sync with the universe. In our everyday busyness, we justify, intellectualize, spiritualize our lives. We speak some nice spiritual platitudes and we get on with our day far too often. Our spiritual thoughts and actions and deeds don't match the words that we say sometimes. We're out of sync. The heart and the head are out of alignment. It's kind of like I'm not living my spiritual truth when I'm doing that. If I let things just go ahead and bother me, we'll talk some more about that. I know that staying on your spiritual path and staying focused can be very trying. Just glance around at the news headlines and the elections that's going on. Now I might turn away from it and just say, oh, that doesn't exist. I might turn away from it, but at my gut level, if I'm harboring resentment, judgment, fear, I'm putting myself into bondage. I'm not free. If I'm whining and complaining about my neighbors, my health, my wealth, relationships, people, places, and things, I'm putting myself into bondage. I'm not free. It's very easy to slip into this mode and get into a downward spiral. Make matters worse when I'm sharing all of my woes on Facebook. Oh, I'm going to get lots of friends that are going to commiserate with me. And it's just validating it and making it worse. Or I can decide that enough is enough and get back to the truth of my being. And that truth is that there is only one life, that life is God, that life is my life right now. We've heard that 1,000 times, probably even more in some cases. There is only one life, that life is God, that life is my life right now. So I want you to repeat that and read it and say it with some feeling. All right? There's only one life. That life is God. That life is my life right now. Yeah, and right now it doesn't change. The now moment is only right now. It's not, when we're dealing with fear or worry, we're dealing into the future, and when we're depressed and woe is me, we're dealing with the past. But right now, at this moment, every one of you are absolutely perfectly healthy. Right now, at this moment, you've got everything that you need. There's absolutely nothing bothering you right now. You are right here, right now, in this moment, and there's nothing that can affect that except your mind. So you take that moment, one moment at a time. And that's how we do that. This is what we forget, that there is only this one life. Everything else is illusion. It really is. It's illusion that we create. Those things that appear before us have absolutely no meaning except what I conjure up in my ego mind. It's my reaction to it that gives it meaning. And most of the time, that meaning is going to be some false belief. In any situation, ask yourself, if something is not, if something bothers you, pushes your buttons, there's a couple questions you can ask yourself. What's the spiritual truth here? What's the spiritual truth? Why is that pushing my buttons? Right? Why is that upsetting me? But if we get back into being grounded and into that spiritual truth, we know that, it's a reaction. It's just a reaction. And if I can set that aside and say, yeah, that's not really the truth. What's going on here? So how do I keep from forgetting the truth of my being? I say this in most of my talks here and all of them, and most places I've spoken, that I say it and repeat it often because it is so important. And I think that it's so important that it's something that it's something that you have to do for yourself. If you haven't already done so, I would like you to consider this. I'd like you need to develop a spiritual practice that you do every day, without fail. You need to get grounded and quiet your mind. Set your intention for the day. It could be a loving thing that you're going to do for yourself or for someone else. But you need to get focused on who you are. Really. Now think about this, because you are the perfection, the beauty, and the love of God made manifest. You are a child of God. You are a child of the Most High, and you are held in the hands of the Beloved. There is nothing more powerful in you than God, than the God I am. You are the life that is God. You are loved and cared for. Regardless of appearances, everyone you encounter is the perfection, beauty, and love of God made manifest, just like you are. You need to take the time to do this every day. You don't have to use those words, you use your own words and stay focused and just align yourself with the truth of who you are before you get into your day. Even if you start right where you are. 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you can do, that's where you begin. But do something consistently. If you do anything consistently, and if you do this mindfully and deliberately, I can guarantee you that your life will flourish. It will change your life. So, In closing, I want to just read this little paragraph from Ernest Holmes that I think is very relevant. Everything in nature is an individualization of the one coordinating life. One law of being and one presence. The mind has become so filled with that which contradicts this idea that even the truth has to await our recognition. We must learn to become consciously aware of the divine presence and the divine power, the wholeness of truth, of love, of reason, and of sound mind. Instead of dwelling on negative thoughts, cause your mind to dwell on peace and joy. Know that the power of the invisible Spirit is working in and through you now, at this very moment. Lay hold of this realization with complete certainty. Namaste. Thank you.